Good morning everyone and welcome to church this morning. It is great to see you all here. I hope we're all surviving well during this crazy lockdown. And I hope we're all ready for a wonderful service that we have planned for today. Once again, we will be sharing communion today, so if you would like to grab some stuff that you can do that with, please feel free to. And we will be reading some verses from the Bible today. You can use your own Bible, or as usual, verses will appear on the screen, so you can read them from there. Sandy. Yeah. Sandy decided to join us this morning. Excuse you. Sid, you want to stay? Stay? No? Sandy. Feel free to chat in the chat section today during the service. You can share your opinions or your thoughts, or you can just genuinely chat to other people that are here today. If you don't want to chat though, that's fine. It's just amazing that you have joined us today for a wonderful service. That is all from me for today. I hope you guys enjoy the service and have a wonderful, wonderful week, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Thank you, Emily, for that introduction. And welcome to everybody else who have already introduced themselves this morning. Hopefully you can hear me fine. We have plenty in store this morning. It's great to have Peter and Linda. Thank you for saying hi. Di, Robin, who are of course a duo watching together. Navi, it's great to see you've managed to navigate the technology this morning. Always a challenge. For anyone celebrating birthdays this week, I can see Sean is welcoming any pets that are making cameos this morning, whether we get to see it all together or whether you have your pet even coming to join with you as a part of church gathering. We don't mind. It's a great thing to be able to do that we don't necessarily usually do in the usual church setting. It's great to have you with us. Other people who have already greeted everyone, the Yules household, Michael, the Drummonds, Nicolaisons, Ratcliffe, Jess, thank you, Oxmans, I'm sure I could go on. And I know other people, which I'll just mention, who may watch but not right now with us live. So welcome to you, Elise, as you watch in. Welcome to you, Vin, wherever you are in this country, helping people on the operating table, tuning in whenever you can. Welcome to you. Welcome to you, Sam, overseas. I'm sure there are a few others. The Stumbleses, Kellers, who I know are great at tuning in, maybe not commenting, but we don't hold that against you. We just love having you a part of our church community, and anybody else that is there. We have lots in store, as I said. We are taking a little bit of a look at some more of our international world changes. And what that looks like today, in some sense, is especially with Noel Bolero, who we'll get to see from and hear from, who is a minister overseas, not necessarily a missionary, because this is a person who has put his hand up to serve in his local setting. But for us, our local setting and me driving to support the local church might mean 15 minutes, 10 minutes in the car. For Noel, it might mean 40 minutes, an hour of driving. And so we don't actually get to just look at missionaries today, but in some cases we get to see a man who is being a world changer in his own setting. And we get to serve as a part of the kingdom of God to support him and release him to be able to do those things. And so it's a great challenge, not just to think of what others are doing in far-flung places, but to also consider, as they do it in their setting, what can we be doing in our setting to be world changers as well. So we're going to be hearing from Noel Bolero. We're going to hear an update from John Bond, who is a great friend of New Day Church. And we're also going to have some live worship this morning. Well, it was filmed live, so it's some of our familiar faces, but we get to worship along with that. Communion, focusing on God, And ultimately, we want to find ourselves through this morning not building a church, but building a relationship with God. And so I just invite you into that space. Find God where you are at this morning and see how He wants to grow you. Maybe it's growing you in who you are, but maybe it's growing you in helping see Him in a fuller way. Well, first up, we're going to watch along this video from a group called Kiva, which we have decided as a part of World Changers to support in the social enterprise that they do in all that they do. So I want to just encourage you, have a watch along and see how we're going to be investing a portion of our funds this year.
People around the world work hard every day.
Choose a borrower.
Magpahiram.
¿Recibe su dinero?
Repeats.
You may have invested in a project like Kiva or something similar in the past, and so you might know a little bit about it, but certainly for anyone who wants to know more, and potentially for yourself personally or as a family would be interested in investing in supporting other people in their life, you could visit Kiva and their website. But this is something, just a small portion of what we seek to support through World Changers this year. Just wanted to share something I noticed yesterday. My wife and I, we took our kids off to a local playground, and if I didn't say it before, and welcome to Sarah and Ruben and Matilda, and actually while I'm thinking about any other kids who are watching, Macca, if you're watching, welcome. Oh, I've forgotten the names. Where'd they go? Sian, Hamish, Hugh, and Lockie, and Cody, and anyone else who's tuning in. Mark, it's great to have you with us. Anyway, back to the story. We went to this playground, and as we played, and just it was really quiet. Nobody else was there, and eventually a car came along, and two older folk. A couple were getting out of their car, and then they were obviously helping out the great grandparents out of the car, setting up some chairs, and soon after some parents came along with their very young child, not crawling, nothing like that, really young. And just as we got to do our thing with this roadmap that the government has outlined and what people are allowed to do, these people, as far as we can tell, were allowed to gather in their small number, I assume vaccinated, and potentially this great grandmother was meeting the great grandchild for the first time. And you can just imagine the special time that was for them as a family to be able to see each other and spend time together. So I just tell that story because, of course, us as a church and church leadership, we are on a journey to discern the best ways forward as the government and data and updates keep changing regularly, we as a leadership team are trying to just be across these things and be considering prayerfully what is the best way for us as a church, perhaps in conjunction but not dictated to, how do we roadmap forward through this setting. So I just want to encourage you and reassure you that we are talking about these things. We will meet as required and be praying for these things. So I want to encourage you to be praying along with us in this journey. As we have to weigh so many different things in tension. And it's a really difficult minefield. I've heard from many leaders in the Fresh Hope movement and in law positions and health positions and all sorts of things. And despite all that, they all go, yeah, this is really hard. And it's really difficult to discern the right way forward. So please be praying for us. And certainly as appropriate, we'll be letting you know the way forward through this time in our local context. For now, let's have a look at some photos that people have shared recently.
Good morning, church family. So good to have you joining us today. I'm just here to bring a few announcements, things that are going on in the life of our church. So first up, we have the church directory. If you'd like to be a part of this, please let us know. You can contact the office or Hayden or Jono or pretty much anyone who's involved in that. Let them know you'd like to be a part of it. Only people who've opted in for the directory will be getting a directory, so it's just staying within the church family. We have a youth Zoom again this Friday, which is very exciting. I'll be there. If you're a youth-aged person, you should be too. We'll be playing a few games, chatting, catching up. It has been a while since we've been able to see anyone, so that'll be really great. And finally, if you have any photos with a filter, maybe, you know, funny face, something like what Jono had in the slideshow, very attractive photos, we might add, send those through, and we'd love to just have a bit of a laugh, see who can, you know, pull the silliest face. So yeah, now we're going to have a little video from Noel.
You need to do it. Many things that are happening, especially when trial comes, it's not very easy. To the hope we profess, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how we may spur one another on toward love and good deeds. Let us not give.
Hello, good day to all of you. Today is Thursday, and I have a schedule of home Bible study at Capitol Hills, a 40 minutes drive from our house, and we will be having our Bible study there. And thank you so much for being with me. Then was God's iyagid mga sa saging na bala magbakla na do tinabig na bala ang basket na bala no kinaing na ang ika-11 dili no ay ika-10 iyagid whether it was cattle, fowls, eggs, corn or pot. You Father God na although it's somehow hurting sa amon na side especially sa mga panahon but na supersede yapon Ginoo sang imong Good afternoon. This is Friday and I'll be going again to my next second Bible study center in Banga BM. I hope you will be with us. I hope God will be pleased on this, that we're having Bible study always. So pray for me as I move on with this ministry. God bless you all, and I know that this is a very good place for us to do. Kaya na tibok ko gani nga si Chantal ko. Si tibok ko ni. Sipat sa magtawa. Yes. Tawa ang nag-burp. I-post kita nag-burp.
Hindi kita ang garay.
And so are you. So let's just praise the Lord. Right arm. Right arm. Right na walk. Hello, good afternoon. Today is Saturday, August 28, 2021, and we'll be going to another Bible study, but at the same time this is a worship Saturday for the people in Banago. So join me as we will be worshiping God, no, this afternoon with our brothers and sisters there. And I hope that all of you are doing well. Okay, bye-bye. You gave your body, you shed your blood. Yes, we remember your wondrous love. Legacy, not only for ourselves but for the church, for your glory. And I pray, Father, that as you will envelop us this morning with your Holy Spirit, convict us, Father, to be part of these ministries na discuss namon bisan paano, bisan lipot lang, because this is in line with what we have learned this morning, that we need to have unity in the body of Christ. Father, thank you so much for opening our eyes to the many responsibility that we need to do as we praise and worship you all the days of our life. Bless us as we allow ourselves to become an offering, a sacrificial offering before you, be it a pleasing aroma before your presence and before your throne of grace in heaven. Thank you so much.
Isn't that just amazing and refreshing to be able to see what ministry looks like for another brother or sister in a different setting, in a different place? But you know, it's not presenting the glamorous and the, oh, we've had this many baptisms and we've had this, but we get to see Noel at the coalface, literally as he's driving along. But we get to see what ministry looks like, to go into houses and to be praying with people and to be singing, not with guitars and not with a whole band or anything like that, but just to be the family of God, the local church in that way. Even perhaps a little bit of a picture of what some people might have thought of as wild church. Imagine what that could look like even for us as we try and return to a new normal of what church looks like. Imagine what it would look like if that represented a little bit of that for us. With you also about one of our other people that we partner with and support who works overseas, but I'm going to just leave out some of the details just because of the circumstances he finds himself in. You person well enough because we've supported him in the past. But one of the people that we support overseas who has been going into villages in the mountains and sharing the gospel, and due to military instability has found himself and his family's lives threatened by militia and armed people because he's bringing the gospel, and that's bringing freedom and release into people's lives, but that's also then releasing them from in part oppression by these people and by different groups, and so this person has had to change their locality, move house and set up, but then is going off and finding these people in these remote communities and sharing the gospel with, and just going out faithfully again and again. And so this is somebody we've also just been able to excitedly be able to support, someone who's bold enough to find themselves in those places, but otherwise wouldn't be able to support themselves as well as they need to. And so we've been able to, just as with many ministers in many churches who are financially supported to be released to either serve the church family or serve the wider kingdom, we've been able to do this for this person as well. We're going to share in a time of communion. And so if you have your stuff ready, that's great. Jess is going to lead us and encourage us into meeting with God, and then we're going to worship together.
Good morning, church. I hope you've all had a wonderful week. After yet another week in lockdown, it's starting to feel like it's gone on forever. But God is faithful, and He promises to be with us. In humans were separated from God, but He was faithful to His people. And it's because of His love and faithfulness that Jesus was sent to die, so that we could live. His faithfulness doesn't stop and continues every day. Lamentations 3:21-23 says, "Yet this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. Because of the Lord's great love, we are not consumed. For His compassions never fail. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness." So as you take your communion this morning, whatever it may be, I encourage you to reflect on God's faithfulness and remember His compassion and love in sending Jesus to die for us.
Sometimes sorrow is the door to peace. Sometimes heartache is the gift I need. You're faithful, faithful in all things. In every high, in every low, on mountaintops, down broken roads, you're still my rock, my hope remains. I'll rest in the arms of Jesus, come what may. Come what may. There is deep joy that you give to me. the hurt meets the healing. It's a holy thing. I see goodness, your goodness in all things. Yeah, in every high, in every low, on mountaintops, down broken roads. You're still my rock, my hope remains. I rest in the arms of Jesus. Come what may. Come what may. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pasture. The Lord is my shepherd, leads me to still waters. He restores my soul. Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. Oh, the Lord is my shepherd, leads me to still waters, and He restores my soul. In every high, in every low, on mountaintops, down broken roads, you're still my rock, my hope remains. I rest in the arms of Jesus. In every high, in every low, on mountaintops, down broken roads, you're still my rock, my hope remains. I rest in the arms of Jesus. Come what may. Come what may.
Roll away.
I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation to let it all go. I see it now, I'm laying it down, and I know that I need you. Run to the Father, I fall into grace. I'm done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and again. Whoa, oh, oh. You saw my condition, had a plan from the start. Your Son for redemption.
Thank you so much to the guys who set aside some time to help put that together. Just with some of the other media we've had to use this morning, we needed to have some live stuff to make sure we didn't impinge on anything with YouTube. So thank you to those guys, to the ones that we saw, but then those who also helped with the tech stuff so that we could sing in worship together. And also thank you to you guys, not because of the position we had to be in, but just for you guys sharing your talents to help lead us into a space where we devote and give to God through a time of worship. I once went to a conference and got to hear a young guy speak who was a young adult pastor at his church, and therefore, as churches do, he was in charge of organising their evening service because, other people aren't allowed at those services, no. And he found himself in a bit of a predicament, which a lot of churches find themselves in sometimes, of how do I take this good mass of people who perhaps need to be a bit uncomfortable, need to be unsettled because they're comfortable and it's a good number, but it's going nowhere. They might be going down, but they're not going up. And, maybe we don't want to be lukewarm, but we want to actually, be strong in some sense, in some way. And so he had to try and think out of the box. How do we do this? And so he went, well, let's go out of the box. And so what he ended up doing was getting a whole lot of $100 notes. And he invited a whole heap of these young adults, unknowing, during this service, up onto the stage and gave them all $100. Say, this is for you. You've got to use this in some way. You can choose however you like, but the key thing is you've got to give it away. So this week, some way, somehow, off you go, give it away. And we're going to ask you next week what you did with it. Now, by setting as little parameters as possible, it actually allowed for great freedom, some guideline, but great freedom to figure out for each of them what they'd do. And so one person the next week during the service came and shared, well, they didn't know what to do with the money. And how can I choose one place to use this over another? And so what they ended up doing was they got that $100 changed into 100 $1 coins. And then throughout the course of their week, in all sorts of settings, they gave someone a $1 coin. And it actually sparked opportunity for conversation. Maybe it was someone they knew well, maybe it was someone on the street, all sorts. But some of the conversations they ended up having, because they were all of a sudden unsettled into this position, well, I've got to do this, I've got to give it a go, were conversations that they wouldn't have had otherwise. And story after story from this guy as he shared about what happened. One person used this $100 in another way, one used it another way, one split it up, but one just gave it away, one bought things that someone else needed. And it was just amazing to see the opportunities that spread, not by what the church was doing, but how actually people were, just by being willing to be a little bit uncomfortable, were able to step into a new space and do things in different ways with what suited who God made them to be, that then opened up opportunities in their community. And I'll tell you that story because we, of course, are doing our pledges for World Changers Month, as we always do. So please, if you haven't already, fill out our normal pledge card, okay? Fill it out, send it back. Or if you just want to send the information or call up Hayden at the office, send an email, say this is how much I'm planning to pledge so that we can gather that information. So we've got an idea of how much funds across the year we're expecting to receive to be sowing into these different areas and supporting people and lifting them up financially in ways. Please send that in. So if you haven't done that already, we can't do much because of COVID, so that's the one thing you can go, right, I have something to do today. I'm going to fill out my pledge card or email and send it in. So hopefully at the start of October we can tell you a good tally of what we're expecting and how much we can support people with. But I tell you that story because, of course, we're doing our Wild Pledge initiative this year as well. So please, as we talked about it last week, set aside, figure out prayerfully how much you want to support into mission and ministry spaces in that Wild Pledge. Not here for in the church, but what's happening outside. But consider also, how much would you like to commit to God and say, I'm going to keep this much aside so that some stage in the next 6 months, you can purposefully, intentionally be a part of being a world changer in our community, so that you then take that money and you go be the missionary. You go bring the ministry to someone's life. And you can do it in any which way you like. You might prayerfully consider, you know what, that's actually going to be $1,000 of my $1,500. Or you might decide that's going to be just $10 of my $50 that I pledge. And you could use that in all sorts of ways. But we want to encourage the church to be the church, for you to be the ones bringing life and the way and the truth and Jesus' love into your setting. So please be sending these in, get them into us. I want to share with you a video from John Bond, which provides us a great encouragement of some of the ministry that Sun Life Ministries has been doing, not just here, but across the world, and seeing the impact massively, how God multiplies a little that we give into a massive amount of work into this world. So John, as you share with our last of our World Changers videos for this morning, thank you, mate.
Well, hello, new day. It's just a delight to be able to share with you very briefly as you share in your World Change, maybe the weekend or a Sunday service. We're just delighted to have the opportunity of giving you a little update. It's 2 years since I was privileged to be able to come over and share with you. Since that time, of course, just a month or two ago, I was able to get away for 3 weeks with my brother Ken and my middle brother David and enjoy the sights of WA, but that was of course before lockdown, and we feel for you guys. We are praying for those of you in Victoria and New South Wales currently as I record this. I just want to say thank you for your partnership in the gospel. And particularly, I wanted to update you with the things God has been doing through our church planting training ministry. Quite apart from movements that have been born. Through COVID, we've tragically lost 3 of our master trainers. We really feel this. We've invested in them between 10 and 11 years to develop them, and they have served so faithfully. And they've left behind wives and young children who we're trying to support as well. But since January 2011, and with your help and your partnership, we've been privileged to engage now with 21 nations. And as a result of engaging in those nations through our Asia Pacific region, we now have, as a result, 3,351 trainers who are serving with us, and over 50 master trainers who are able to train trainers as well as teach church planting training. So it's pretty exciting to see what God has done. And they've joined us in training 26,561 church planters. It's mind-boggling, isn't it? But we've seen the multiplication take place over time. Now that's resulted in our projected figures in excess of 49,000 churches. And as a result of that, we know over the research that we've been doing the last few years that 2,291,000 plus new disciples have been led into relationship with Christ. Pretty mind-boggling when you consider we have the privilege of working with these nations. Just in the month of July, we've seen had a total of 12 training events, and they were held where we saw 344 men and women trained and equipped. And additionally, we trained another 108 trainers to roll out the material. And this is in spite of the pandemic. People able to train in homes, people able to get to isolated villages in unreached regions. And in July, our events were conducted in Cambodia, in the Philippines, in Nepal, in Vietnam, and here in the West, in Western Australia. Recently, we held a summit for our leaders, and we had over 50 online to share with us for a 3-hour catch-up and planning. And we've trained, now planned for in excess of 100 training events over the next 6 to 12 months. And we were challenged by our leader in Kenya to consider Matthew 5:41, where Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount said, if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with them 2 miles. In other words, don't place limitations upon your service. Don't place limitations upon your giving. Be prepared to go the extra mile, as my old dad used to say. And when we do that, we see God do amazing things. Can I just thank you, New Day Church, again for your partnership in the gospel? You have no idea what it means. And for every $100 you invest, we are seeing another church planter trained, and as a result of that, we're seeing almost 2.5 churches per person trained. Now that's solid data. We've researched that over and over again. So I just want to say thank you. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your partnership in the gospel, and may God continue to bless you and use you in the days that lie ahead.
Isn't that encouraging and amazing to hear some of those numbers? But it's not about the numbers, but it's about what that represents in terms of sowing into our world, sharing the gospel, training people up, discipleship, all of those things. So John, thank you so much for putting that together and sharing with us. John, of course, is brother of Ken Bond, who was the interim minister here, finishing at the start of this year. And I'm mentioning Ken because many will know Ken's recently had a couple of stents put in, and he's recovering pretty well. Still a few precautionary things, but and he'll have a few more to do in a couple of weeks, but he's recovering fairly well. So just for those who've known that he's had some work done or had it upcoming, that's where he's at. And in saying that, this coming week we're going to perhaps share a few more praise stories with you and some prayer points in our email update, because some people have got new jobs during lockdown. Some people have recently been offered jobs during lockdown. Of course, there are people who still need prayerful support, asking God to come and intervene in their lives as well. So please keep an eye out for our email update, and we're going to include them in there. But also, if there is a small thing, don't think it insignificant, don't worry about bothering other people, because that's what we as the church are here for, to support one another and build one another up. If there is anything that we can be celebrating together in our own homes, please email Hayden or myself, contact us and share your celebrations with us and share your prayers with us, so then we can circulate that around to the whole church community. And for anyone else who is watching along, who's perhaps been checking out church and going, you know what, I'm interested in going further in understanding this journey around who God is, and perhaps that could be a part of our church community, contact us and we could add you to this email as well, so that you can be going on the journey alongside each one of us. We don't have it sorted. We're just going one step at a time as well. Well, next week, Next week is the last week of our World Changes Month, which means it's the last week where we're going to have someone come and share. And I'm excited to say that we have Debbie Magyar, who coordinates the local food van down at My Unit Way, coming to share with us, just like we had someone last week, and share with us and ask some questions and interview her about what the food van ministry looks like. And also in amongst COVID and the difficulties around that. So I want to encourage you, tune in next week, and especially that'll be a great chance, like last week, for you to ask some questions in the chat and for us to be able to share your questions with her and see where God takes that conversation. We're also going to be hearing from one of our own in some responses to some questions, Di, into the food van and what that has looked like for her being involved in that space. And finally, also in a more local, not international, but maybe not local, national ministry sense. And for those who are really disappointed we didn't get to Dareton, next week we're going to be sharing a video from Ilka Deli, who is the youth worker at the Youth Community Centre in Dareton. And he's going to be sharing with us about what the mission space and support space looks like in the Dareton community in his capacity. So there's a few different things to look forward to next week. So please set aside the time, maybe on the Sunday morning, maybe in the Sunday Arvo, later on in the week, to tune in with us. But otherwise, for now, it's a shorter one. May you be able to go out and enjoy the sunshine, maybe meet up with someone else from our church and have a walk. Enjoy the creation God has for you this week. But for now, keep safe and keep blessed with God.